Hey, it's going to be commentary for chapter 52 of my book, Metadimensional, which you can find on Kindle or listen to for free as an audiobook, and the links are in the description. Chapter 52 is called Be Careful What You Wish For. So, this is following the previous chapter where I'm making the case that the reality we share requires the intervention of experience to flourish, to survive. And what I mean by that, according to this theory, experience is fundamental, which means that it's not, that when I say that experience is required, it's not because of something that the brain tells us to do, or that the world tells us to do. Experience as an independent independent player in the evolutionary game has to have the ability to affect reality. It is necessary. The assumption is that it has so much capacity to make changes that if you dampen it, you probably are going to go into a self-terminating scenario. And experience, if it's not driven by the world that we perceive, the wakeful world, then it's irrational by definition. Like, if you cannot find rationale inside the world for it, then it has to be irrational. And it is irrational because the will is irrational, because the will is free from determinism. If it is to be free, it is free from determinism, and therefore it has to be irrational. So you have to have both the willingness to unleash experience and put the will, the uncontrollable, non-deterministic, as far as you can measure in the wakeful world, will, and to somehow make the changes necessary to ensure the longevity of our shared reality. Or in the terms of the theory, you would say you want to secure the experiential dominance, our experiential dominance of all the members of the wakeful union. The ability of experience to change the wakeful reality they perceive, which is by definition, therefore, outside the laws of nature, through experiential dynamics, through, say, the blind gap, private blind gap, whatever. Okay, so that's the goal, but how do you achieve that? I said it's difficult, and it is. It's more than difficult. It's like if let's say we have a reality now that needs fixing. And insofar as the reason the reality needs fixing is because of experiential subservience, unleashing experiential dominance is a tough call. First, like every one of us can have experiential dominance as much as they want if they drift off to their insane reality that is completely detached from everyone else's, and then they could have experiential dominance as much as they want, but they won't be communicating with other people. And the thing about experiential dominance, I think, for the things that we want, is it is always rooted in a human stories, and maybe better said archetypal stories. Stories about that are deeply rooted in us, in experience. And for that you need other people. So you cannot just disconnect from everyone and do whatever you want. Similarly, it's not like you can have a prescription how to unleash people's experiential dominance. Once you tell someone to do something, they are no longer and they do it. They are no longer letting the experience doesn't do anything. You are inflicting on them experiential subservience. You can tell them be free, and by telling them to be free, you are subjugating them to your commands. So you can't tell them to be free. And let's say you made it you found some kind of a solution that would unleash everyone's experiential dominance, and everyone's doing whatever they want, and they are all they are detached enough from each other so that they won't override each other's decisions through body space reconciliation, through they're each and every one's perspective over the shared reality will cohere. Well, so you have to keep everyone apart. Well, you know what happens when you keep people apart? You create a society that is not functioning as effective as the society that doesn't do that. And that other society, the society that keeps together, that communicates, even if people don't have their experiential dominance, they can defeat that other society in conflict because they are better organized, and they can make sure that society that is fragmented and everyone does whatever they want gets defeated, gets erased, and you're back to the problem of not enough experiential dominance, because that other society didn't celebrate experiential dominance. So now you can try to find solutions how to perhaps unleash one's experiential dominance in private, and that might work. But again, to have enough privacy in terms of experiential privacy, you have to keep people apart. And a society that doesn't allow that, and that is united in its attempt to subdue that society that you belong to, well, that other society will simply win again. So I'm not saying it's impossible. And for the book, I'm trying to think of other ways how to solve this problem. But it's not like there is a quick fix. And it's not like you should think about fixing your reality the same way what we're doing right now, where we say, let's cut carbon emission, let's let's have laws that make it illegal to throw waste. Let's have laws that make it illegal to use too much electricity. Let's have laws that make force people, that make it required for people to care about animals. That's all fine. Like, I'm not saying anything bad about the intention or even the practice of it, but that if the problem is experiential subservience, that's not a solution, and it's not like a solution is in sight. It's more like you need to understand that, at least register the fact that experience matters, and that have this sensibility. And when the time comes when you need to make a decision whether to mechanize your reality or leave room for experience, for experiential dominance, for making decisions that don't make sense, if it's possible to preserve the experiential dominance while not risking too much in terms of any other terms, then by all means do that. Don't just go and mechanize everything and hoping for the best. That, according to this theory, if experience is fundamental, that will lead to a bad outcome.